You might want to back up a little bit. There you go.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Chuck Seark, your host of Rockstar Connect Lancaster, together with my lovely wife off camera, Janet Seark. We are the branch owners of eXp Realty here in Lancaster, based out of the Candy Factory in downtown. We're also the co-owners of Lancaster Estate Solutions. And we're excited today to bring to you another Rockstar Connect Lancaster Success Seminar. And today we're going to talk about why your brand strategy matters. So Miss Dana Robertson of Pennant Creatives, based out of also the Candy Factory here, is going to share with us an excellent presentation on exactly that, why your brand strategy matters and why brand is more than just a logo. It's very much more in depth, and she will help us understand exactly why it's so important. So we've got folks live here. Hopefully you're watching from the comfort of your office or your home on the live stream. We're excited to get started. So without further ado, Miss Dana Robertson.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Chuck and Janet, for having me. I love Rockstar Connect. When Pennant was just getting started out, we would go to the Rockstar networking events all the time. And it's so funny because I actually have a funny story a little bit later on that kind of relates to that was like, gave me an aha moment actually at the Rockstar Connect events, because you learn a lot when you go around talking to people about your business, especially when you're just starting out. So hello, I am Dana the Dreamer. I own Pennant Creatives and the founder, along with Chris the designer. His name, Chris Brimehurst. We are business partners. We are also partners in life. And so, you know, we have a lot of fun creating things together. We always have since like the moment I actually like met him. But yeah, so we have a lot of fun creating, and a lot of how we landed on the business that we do now is from really just understanding who we are as a team and how that translates to brand and brand strategy very specifically. So I'm excited to dive into a little bit of, well, first, just give you a foundation from our perspective of what brand is. And then we're going to talk about brand strategy. Why does it matter? I'm going to answer that question. And I'm also going to take some time to talk to you about some tips you can use actually today to think about your brand strategy a little bit differently. So let's get started. I love to explain branding by telling the story of Pennant Creatives and how we came to be. So this is where the Rockstar Connect comes in. So in 2017, Christopher was freelancing, and I was between jobs and not 100% sure what I wanted to do. I had my background in social work and was doing a lot of management and strategy in that world, but was kind of like taking a minute to think about it. And Chris comes up to me and he says, I have this freelance project that I'm designing, and maybe you could be you could help me with it. And I was like, haha, Chris, the designer, this is a pity project. You just feel bad for me because I'm between jobs. And he's like, no, but guess what? I created an email for you under C. Brimehurst Media Co., which is this beautiful logo that you see here. And he just like slowly backed out of the room. And I was like, oh, okay. So I tried to it took a minute. I was like, you know what? This could be fun. So let's do this. So enter Rockstar Connect. I was like, well, what do people who, grow businesses or manage projects do? Well, you have to network. And so, yeah, it was actually like Rockstar Connect was actually one of my first networking events that I ever went to. But I was going around and I'm like, hi, I'm Dana Robertson. I'm from C. Brimehurst Media Co. And I really love Chris's last name, Brimehurst, but everybody was like, what's a Brimehurst? And so then I would launch into like how incredible my husband is, right? Which is not exactly what you want to do. I mean, yes, he's amazing. I mean, obviously, if you've met him, but it's not exactly what you want to do when you're talking about the work that you do, the incredible work that you do, right? So we knew that as beautiful as this logo was and the visual presence of C. Brimehurst Media Co. was, that it didn't reflect who we were. So that put us on a journey to really understand who we are. So I would say, first off, traditional definition of brand is just a visual presence that's easily recognized as your own business. So we would consider C. Brimehurst Media Co. and the visual branding therein, as beautiful as it is, to be just a very traditional definition of brand and branding. So then after our time, just taking a minute to really understand like who we were, what we wanted to bring to the world with our business, because we realized, you know, if you're an entrepreneur, you're starting a business out, like you have something to bring to the world. Every single one of us does. And so we took the time to think about that and really worked on how that related to our presence in the world. So it did include the visuals. As you can see, it's a very different visual presence from the C. Brimehurst Media Co., right? But it was also like understanding how we interact as a team, understanding how our clients feel when they work with us, how they experience us, how they walk through the process of branding with us. And so a lot of that actually we put ourselves through to understand what we now know as values-based brand. And that is the process to uncover and implement a set of values that define your brand in an all-inclusive way. So that definitely means, yes, your visual presence, your fonts, your colors, but it can reach to every single place that exists in your business. So if you have a team, it extends to your team and how they are, you know, even on your team in the first place. It could be if you have a waiting room, how your waiting room feels when people walk in. If it's answering the phone, picking up the phone, like, what are you saying? So it can extend to all of those different parts. It can extend to your culture. That's what we mean by values-based branding. So with that definition in mind, it's really just looking at the strengths of this that it can. So yes, it extends, but it's also a really great way to reach that gold standard of branding, which is that it is seamless and consistent in every arm of your company, that the actual experience for your customer is a seamless process. So yeah, this is values-based brand. All right, now that we've kind of touched that, I need you to know that I'm really into food analogies. So we're going to talk a lot about food. And for that reason, I have brought, Chris and I we picked out some Byler's donuts for y'all. So if at any point you get hungry, please go and grab yourself a donut, because it might actually come in handy a little bit later when we're like working on some of the things we're going to be doing together here. So just a little hint there. And for those of you who are streaming online, so sorry. If you reach out to me, we will get a donut together. That is my promise to you. You heard it. You heard it. You just remind me, I'll do it. Okay. So with every brand, there are ingredients, right? I think a lot of times people call these attributes. Okay. So this is kind of like basics, but mission, vision, values, your tone. It's like what is said, but like there is always a tone, even if it's just copy on your website. There's a voice that's happening. Visuals, the experience, that process, all of those things can be curated. And so I call them the ingredients. But so keep that in mind as we're talking through what values-based brand can entail. All right. So here's the secret sauce, right? Or if we're thinking about donuts, it's the icing. But the secret sauce for us that we see in values-based branding is values, but it's also people, okay? And when you're looking at the different parts of your brand, people and values are going to show up in several different pieces of that brand. If you're looking, these are all my ingredients, if you're listing them all out. So I will say that usually, like, it can be, first off, your values. So the ones that you speak. So there are companies that have like a list of, these are the things we value. So it could be that, but it could also be a value that it's like you can't help but ignore walking into the office. Like, people are obsessed with having a decent sense of humor. I think that's a value, right? So that's an example of one that might not be spoken. But also with people, it can be the people on your team. It could be the customers you're trying to reach, your stakeholders. So there could be any range within that secret sauce of people and values, but most of the time when you're looking at it to try to have it be a very specified brand secret sauce, you want to choose one or two of that people values combination. So maybe like one value and one set of people, right? So it's not like all the people in your that are included in your brand or your attributes, but just like choosing one. And then also same, like honing in on one or two values. So this is our secret sauce. We're going to put this all together here in just a minute. Well, actually just right now. We're going to work together on an activity. Okay, so my streamers, can they put comments in?
Yes.
Okay, streamers, I expect you to participate.
We'll want some keto donuts.
Okay, we'll find it. I will make it happen, Will. You heard me. I got to research that. I got to Google that. Yes. Okay, so are we ready for our activity? It's going to be fun.
Yep.
All right. All right. Here, ladies and gentlemen, we have our very traditional sugar-coated, gorgeous donut. Okay. This is, okay. So what I need you to do, this is very, well, a little, depending on who you are, this is outside the box, okay? But this donut has come to us and he has a problem. He really needs to reach his ideal person who is looking for him out in the world, right? So this donut has come to us to come up with a better understanding of what his brand is. Okay. And so what we're going to do today, now that we know and understand that brand is way more, right, than just your visual identity, although it does include that. And we know that we've got ingredients like mission, vision, values, language, tone, visuals, all of that. And we know and understand what the secret sauce would be. We're going to do some brainstorming and some spitballing about our dear donut who has come to us with a real problem, because there is nothing plain about this donut, right? And we know that, but the world doesn't know that. Sugar-coated, plain donut. So I'm going to ask some questions and I need some ideas, okay? So let's think. If this donut were a person, first question, what would they be like? So if you experience this donut as a person, would they have, what would his vibe be? What would this donut's vibe be?
Looks like a real sweet guy.
A sweet guy. Sweet. A very sweet guy. Okay. A sweet guy. Okay. So what would you want to spend time talking with this sweet donut about? If you were sitting across from him having coffee.
What it's like to have sugar?
What it's like to have sugar, like really understanding, like what is it like to have sugar on yourself, your being all day long, day in and day out? Yeah, like that's a very experiential question that I think is really important to ask. Okay.
So we have someone on Facebook said they get the job done, but don't overdo it.
Okay.
So if that's delayed from a previous
I love that.
comment. Steve says sweet, soft on the inside, tasty.
Yes.
Angel from LinkedIn says sweet and maybe a little boring.
Sweet and maybe a little boring. Okay. But like we can own that, right? Like if that is part of who our donut as a person is and they're trying to understand their brand, maybe we do need to embrace that piece of it, right?
Another question for the donut from Steve is, how does it feel to be enjoyed?
Yes, I love that question.
That's a great
How
one.
does it feel to be enjoyed? Yeah. And like how much incredible information about values and people can you get out of that question to really understand what this donut's brand would need to be? Okay. I'm going to ask like one more question. Well, okay, wait. So actually, who is looking for what this donut has to offer? What kind of person is looking for this kind of donut?
Someone who's hungry.
Okay, a hungry person. But more specifically, what? Because everybody likes to eat donuts when they're hungry. But is there a specific person that's looking for a sugar-coated plain donut?
Not Steve. Non-keto.
Oh yeah.
Will. Yeah.
Well, Will definitely is not looking for, because he likes keto, and this is not a keto donut. Sorry, Will.
What kind of person is looking for this donut?
Yeah,
A sweet tooth person.
a sweet tooth,
Or a morning coffee person.
a morning coffee person, especially I think somebody who drinks just plain black coffee.
Will says the donut and I have a round shape. We relate well.
Okay. So maybe like, because like it's a super sugary sweet treat, somebody with like who likes that mixture of like, plain coffee and sweet donuts maybe. So these types of questions help us understand who's looking for this donut so that we can figure out how he can then talk to that person.
Someone who keeps it simple.
Yes, absolutely. Like they just like it simple. They like their coffee. They're very simple donuts, starting their day out maybe. So how would this donut then relate to the ones looking for him? I think that's my last question on this particular activity.
Relate.
Mm-hmm.
He's showing off all the sugar he has.
I know, it's true. He should highlight the sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's a problem solver.
Say more.
His key demographic has a problem. They're hungry. They've got a sweet tooth, and he's the perfect man for the job.
Okay. Yeah. It could be like almost like a more of a simple, like a very simple vibe. Like you're hungry. I have what you need, period. Right? Like, oh, I love that. Okay. So did this kind of help you understand how the different attributes and the different ways that you can think about brands can be incorporated? I actually love this exercise because it takes us outside of the box and it takes you thinking about it in a more concrete way, which is something I love to do because I feel like sometimes when you talk about brand, it feels like this thing way up here that isn't necessarily so relatable or can be so concrete. But with questions and really understanding it more specifically, you get pretty quickly to understanding what brand is and what your brand can look like. So thank you all so very much. You were excellent at helping me and this donut understand what his brand could be. All right. So let's talk about how the sauce is spread, right? So we're remembering, what's the secret sauce? What are the ingredients for the secret sauce? People and values. Yes. Okay. So we've got our values, our people, right? Okay. And then we've got this right here. This is our brand strategy, and this is our brand. So the sauce is spread with brand strategy, right? You got to spread that sauce. So we're going to talk about brand strategy. And we're going to actually, I want to, make sure that we understand. Oh, I feel like you should look at a beautiful way that brand strategy can be applied so very differently depending on the donut. First, before we get into my more definitions, it's like literally the possibilities are endless. There are just so many different ways that you can look at your brand, right? And look at the ways that it can be presented, which for some people is wonderful. And other people are like, there's too many possibilities. There's so many possibilities. But that's where brand strategy comes in, my friends. That's where it comes in. All right. So let's just very quickly talk about brand strategy, because again, I have a traditional definition and I have a kind of how we view it at Pennant. And neither of these are wrong. So I just want to put that out there. Neither are wrong. But okay, so the traditional idea of a brand strategy is this long-term plan to achieve a series of long-term goals that ultimately result in the identification and preference of your brand by customers. Again, totally not wrong. Very, very good definition of brand strategy. But my perspective is your brand strategy should be a process. So it's all about aligning those brand ingredients into one strategy that focuses on the impact, influence, and investment of the target audience or audiences, which then results in identification, authentic alignment, and the support of your brand by your people. So it really is about, it is a plan, but it's also a process. And it is about being engaged in that process in the beginning, the middle, and the end when you're deploying a strategy. It's a very important thing to remember about brand strategy. Okay, but I'm going to answer the question of the hour, which is, why does brand strategy matter? Okay, so basically what I'm going to say is you can have a wonderful set of ingredients, right? As we learned with our beautiful sugar-coated donut. But if you don't have a recipe, you can end up with just about anything. And I feel like that is a big piece of this, right? Like, so we want to make sure that the brand strategy offers you cohesion. It offers you a plan that gets you the right people, the right place, and the right moments, and focusing on the values that are going to best reflect your brand specifically for that combination. So that's why it matters, is we really want to make sure we're intentional and we're engaging in a process. All right. Oh, my slides are all backwards today. Anyway, I actually have definitions available for you on a sheet that I'm going to be giving you. So don't feel like you need to feverishly take notes right now, as I know you all are doing. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the elements of a strong brand strategy, right? Okay. Clearly defines the brand attributes. I cannot stress this enough. If you're going to be trying to define a good strategy, you have to start with good, well-defined ingredients. So I always recommend taking the time to list your ingredients and then also write them out, really define them. Don't just say, my customers are women between the ages of 24 and 30 who love rose petals. Or whatever, right? You really need to talk about that person and clearly define who that person is, where they are, what they're spending time doing, what their experience is. And so the other thing that a clear brand strategy does after we have those very well-defined attributes is that they're contributing, understanding how those different pieces then contribute to the overall strategy and how they relate to one another. And I'll explain that a little bit further when we're going through the different parts of the process. And then also I cannot stress enough how much relief you will have if you will have a clear order of action steps in your brand strategy. So making sure okay, we've got a time frame, right? A realistic time frame, but we're going to have those action steps of this is what we're going to do first, then we're going to do this, and then while that's happening, we're also going to be working, So make sure you map it out and have it very clear for yourself. That makes your life easier. It also adds to that realistic Implementation. So I have like realistic timeline. What I'm, saying here, my subtext is sustainability. So you want to create a strategy that you can deploy and that you can put and that you're able to put yourself through a process that isn't going to be unrealistic for you. I say for myself, like knowing solopreneurs, when we're creating brand strategy with them, we're not trying to give them more than we know they're going to have capacity for, because that's not going to help them. You want to make sure whatever you're doing is realistic. If it's realistic, it will be effective, right? Like, because it's a sustainable thing that you are doing and you're going through a process. So you're engaging with it ongoing every day. And that makes for a very strong strategy. So you don't necessarily have to chase all the shiny objects. You just need to understand what's sustainable for you and then follow the plan. And then also like metrics, finding ways to measure and understand how it's going. And metrics can be like, they don't have to be numbers. Yes, they can be your Google Analytics. Yes, they can be your social media, all those metrics and impressions and that kind of thing. But sometimes it is in understanding and paying close attention to how people react to the process that you're working on with them, or how they react to the branded purchase experience that you're giving them after you've deployed the strategy. So just keep that in mind, but it is important to measure and it is important to pay attention to those things, because it gives you all the clues to help you understand how it's going. So these are our elements. All right, so I'm gonna break this down. We've got 3 phases. And for this last part, I just want to talk to you about the different tips for the 3, I say the main phases of brand strategy, right? Because you've got your creation piece where you're starting out, you're listing out those attributes, you're really like pulling it together and making the plan. Then you've got implementation, which is the messy middle, which is my favorite part. And then we've got the debrief, which also has some really key things to it, right? But the biggest piece for every single one of these phases that you should not forget is that secret sauce. So do not forget and to pay attention in every single phase to how you're prioritizing your secret sauce of a combination of values and people, 1 or 2 of those things. All right, here we go. So in creation, we really want to make sure that we've got those really crystal clear definitions before you start trying to create something. And then on top of that, your secret sauce needs to be extra clearly defined, because that is going to be the thing that you're paying attention to as you're deploying this strategy. And then, it is like looking at the plan and asking, is my secret sauce regarded in the different aspects of this plan? Okay, so if my secret sauce is that I want to focus on, like one of our values is creativity. If I want to focus on creativity, and the people I'm trying to work with are nonprofit communications directors, I might really make sure that those things are set up and that there is room for us to be creative when we're talking to the communications directors in my different activities that I'm listing out, my action steps. And I also might want to, consider like how then are the communications directors experiencing creativity in their own lives or in their own work while they're working with us. So that might be one example of how I would want to make sure to regard that in an experience that someone's having with our company, because it completely relates to our brand and our brand strategy. And we want to make sure that if there are people that they're remembering and they're aligning with us and that they are having that experience. Okay, and then also like, how are the values adding impact, influence, and investment to the strategy? So if the value is creativity, how is that adding to all of the ways that we're trying to reach other people, reach the people who this strategy is for. Is creativity the right value, right? So I think that would probably be my first question if that was the value I chose in the creation process. So you want to just kind of like, it's almost like a checklist of just trying to understand and kind of ask yourself these questions to make sure it is like the right combination for the secret sauce, and that's going to be showing up in your action steps that you make. So that's what's happening too. In the creation phase, you are well defining, right? And then you're creating your action steps, your pretty specific action steps. Those are big pieces of the creation phase. Then in implementation, that's when we're doing the thing, right? We're acting out, we're going through our action steps in the order that we set up. And while you're doing that, this is the tricky part, and it's why it's the messy middle. We're looking at making sure that people and values are at the middle of that implementation, because sometimes you start doing the thing and mid doing it, you're realizing you're not actually reaching or investing in the people that you were actually hoping that somehow the message is aligning differently, or somehow the brand speaks a message you didn't even intend. Because once you get it out and you're doing your brand strategy, there's a lot of things that can happen because it's a totally different thing when you have people experiencing it. So how are we involving the values as part of the implementation? So how is the value then coming through when you're bringing your brand strategy out to the world? And how are we, and I like this one, how are we investing in our people externally and internally in this strategy? So this is specifically too, if you have a team and you're doing a strategy and you want to make sure, like, especially if you have other people doing it, that they're feeling invested in the process, right? And that they're feeling it. So make sure that they understand the secret sauce, why it is the secret sauce, and that they're feeling really invested in the process as well. But then, externally, it's kind of about alignment. Like that second question, are people aligning with these action items, right? So the people in your secret sauce, are they aligning with it? If they're not, why not? And then it gets messy, and that's fine. It is totally okay for the sauce to make things messy. That's what sauce does. But the part that's the whole point, is that it's a process. It's not do the thing and then it's done and we're like, was this successful or not? It's okay to have it be a process. And in this implementation phase, if it's not happening the way you think it is, it's okay to adjust it. I think it's totally fine to do that. So these are some things that are very important to pay attention to as you're doing it. Yes, Chuck.
So would that mean that the implementation is an iterative process?
Yes. Yeah. It's I think that sometimes when we think implementation, and the idea of brand strategy is you charge forward with the plan and like, do not look left or right? But like, it is like, let's try these action steps. If something isn't aligning correctly, then you go back. You're like, okay, let's look at it again, kind of look at the creation, the definitions and all of that, and try to see from what you understand, what small thing you might want to try to just shift mid-implementation. I always think it's okay to do that. And that's the whole, as it is a process and not just some set of steps that we're following, it opens things up for you to be more creative and also to make sure that it's aligning and really speaking your values at like that your brand is all about, basically. Any other questions? I know I'm kind of flying through this. Okay, great. All right. Debrief. Do not skip this step. I say that for myself as well as anyone else. It is very important that when you get to the end of a strategy or end of a time frame that you have set, that you take the time to debrief, because that is the only way that you will be able to understand and set things up for your next phase of the strategy, right? So understanding your data that you have, which can be many different things, including, like I said, more qualitative things like how people are experiencing the buying. Maybe there's some changes you see in people once you switch up a process, or so like those types of things. Maybe you're seeing more interaction based on your strategy on LinkedIn, something like that. So there are lots of different clues. That's what I call them. So very important to pay attention to that and think about it and give yourself like time, like put it in your calendar to debrief about your strategy and then do it. Okay, so and then these are some questions you can ask in looking back. How did it impact and influence people defined in your attributes, right? And so, you know, I think that's a good thing to ask and just kind of jot down and think about. How did the strategy reflect the values? How did it end up? I like to ask too, like, what are the surprises? What surprised us about this? I think that's always a good one to think about. And then what needs to be tweaked and shifted? So yeah, at debrief, then you might need to tweak something larger, or you might need to, you know, based on the answers to your questions, just try to tweak it a little bit and then try another go round of your strategy. I mean, like it is very much like a process of that, and being able to do this and then repeat it with what you've learned. And all the while asking, like, how did we emphasize the secret sauce that we have come up with, that we've determined is really gonna be like the glue of this strategy? So debrief, don't skip it. All right, so I hope I've given you a lot of different things that you can think about with brand strategy. And I am, you know, I love talking about this. I could talk about it all day long. But one thing that I want to leave with you is a worksheet that will help you to kind of think through the things that we learned today. You can list out your attributes. There's a spot for that. It also has all of the questions that I had in this presentation, and gives you like the little checklist of a strong brand strategy. So those are some awesome things that are included in this worksheet, so that you can take some time to think about your brand and kind of apply what you've learned today. But then the other thing is, if you scroll down past the worksheet download, you and I could have a donut together. So I'm always open to have coffee and donuts and discuss strategy. It's very fun. And, you know, we help out with that too. Like, we love walking alongside of people to help you think through these things. But regardless, I hope you've learned a lot. I'm going to leave you with an understanding of why I chose this title of this presentation is because one of my heroes, Brene Brown, interviewed another one, like a branding expert, Debbie Millman. She wrote this book called Why Design Matters. And it was so cool. I highly recommend you listening to it. It's on the Dare to Lead, she calls it a parcast. I don't know what, the Dare to Lead parcast by Brene Brown. And it's the interview with Debbie Millman. And it brings up so much about the intersections between brand and humans, and how it's literally been woven into our history of humanity. And, you know, just recently, we've used brand for commercial advertising, but that's just really recent. Brand is a very old concept, right? Of just, you know, signifying something or using signs and symbols to represent something that is happening in our lives in a larger way. So it's really fascinating. Also, we have the book and it's really cool. It's like all these interviews with different designers of different mediums. Like, it's really cool. But yeah, I loved this quote. I think really on its very best day, branding can and should be a profound manifestation of the human spirit. When she said that, I was like, yes! Like, it's just like, so I want to leave that with you as well. It doesn't have to be technical and overwhelming. It can literally come back to, who are you? And how does that happen in the world, right? And we believe it always comes back to people and values. So thank you all. Thank you so much, Rockstar Connect Lancaster, Chuck and Janet, for having me today. And I hope to see you all out there in the world doing amazing brand strategy.
You got time for questions?
I absolutely do.
Okay. So Steve asks, at what point do you suggest to your client that their secret sauce isn't working?
Oh. Okay. Well, so I would say that depends. I think it is, sometimes you can learn that very early on, like mid-implementation. I think if you're seeing some early signs of it like really landing badly, that's the beauty of it being a process, because then you can like shift and you can be nimble really quickly, right? But sometimes it does take a little longer than that, obviously, like going through the strategy and then in a specified time frame. Early on when we're working with clients, I'm always like, let's try this for 90 days and then see how it worked and what needs to shift and change. And usually within, like, I would say 90 days, it's pretty clear if the secret sauce isn't working, and it is if it's that or if it's some other part of the attribute of the brand. And so that's done. I feel like you find that out through the process, and you find that out through collaboration with people who really understand you and your business, I would say. So the time frame varies, but that's the two important things.
I have one. Value-based branding, I feel, really suits companies that are value-based.
Yeah.
What if you encounter a company that's maybe a little more utilitarian?
Mm-hmm. I think that we believe at Pennant that every business, no matter if you are in manufacturing or selling donuts or a social enterprise that sells jewelry or a nonprofit, that every brand has values, some values that you claim that led you to do the work that you're doing. And so I think there's a difference between value-based branding and values-based branding from our perspective, because it's literally looking at understanding the values that are in the work itself, right? So if it's a cabinet maker, for instance, is that would you describe that to be utilitarian? Or like what more were you thinking?
Something along the lines of government contract business or
Yeah.
arms manufacturer or something like that.
Yeah, there's always a value behind that. I think that is claimed. And it is, like with government contracting, there's incredible organizations that are government agencies, like the Department of Housing and Urban Development, right? If that would be a dream job for me, like I'd be like, heck yes, I want, because they believe strongly in fair and affordable housing. That should drive their brand, period, right? So there's that. But yeah. So everybody, because we're all humans, can claim a value, and that really underlines the work that's being done. I think that every business can claim values and let brand speak that. Oh, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Thanks. Any other questions?
No, just comments saying that thank you for answering the question, and I liked your differentiation between value and values.
Yeah, because I think value-based is more like they're coming, like humans are coming for a service that brings them like intrinsic value, right? And that's not wrong. That's great. But I think we're coming from list the values. What is at your core of who you are and how you do, and everybody can do that. So. Thank you guys so much. Let's have donuts. Oh, I didn't even talk about you.
You could do it.
This is Chris. Get up here.
Come on up, Chris.
This is the very wonderful, dare I say, handsome.
We have to arrange yourselves.
Oh yeah. Okay. Wait.
Right here.
Wait. Okay.
Yes.
We could be like, this is Chris, the designer. He's fantastic, and he doesn't like public presentations.
she's the perfect presenter. So
But he designs and brings our brands to life, and that's like my favorite. So Chris,
Yeah.
other side of Pennant Creatives.
Yay.
Well, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate that. Hopefully it was also of value to you. Just know that we do these success seminars on a very regular basis. It gives rock stars the opportunity to share their expertise and teach other rock stars. So not only do we do these types of success seminars, but we also, every second Thursday of each month from 6 to 8 p.m., we do have a monthly business networking event. Obviously, that was a great catapult for Dana to be able to launch into Pennant Creatives. We have lots of success stories of folks that are coming together, building relationships, and growing their business through face-to-face networking. If you're watching us on Rockstar Connect Lancaster Facebook group, we do have that as a way to stay connected with the business community and your connections throughout the month until you can meet folks and grow your network at Rockstar Connect Lancaster. So again, the next event is coming up November 10th in 2022. If you're watching this a long time later, Thursday, November 10th, 6 to 8 p.m. at Stoner Grill, located in Overlook Park. So thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you soon.